All right, good morning again. We're back in the regular session. We just came out of an executive session where we discussed legal matters and threatened litigation. No decisions were made. We just got update from legal counsel. So we're gonna resume our agenda. And the next item on the agenda, we're gonna recognize Mr. Springer and St. Corey for an introduction. St. Corey, you with us?
You're muted, Jamil.
Can't see you though.
Yes, so can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yes, good morning, commissioners. On the Zoom call today, we have Ms. Isabel Winstead. She's our new Energy Innovative Fellow from the Department of Energy. She replaced Ms. Solange Camacho, who was with us last year. So she's going to be on board with us. She's starting now, but she's relocating by November. She will be in the office here in St. Croix. Ms. Isabel Winstead, she has a background of economics and some experience regarding in public commissions. If she's online now, she can speak. Ms. Isabel Winstead, are you online? Alisa, she's online right now?
I don't see her there anymore.
We'll come back to that when she's online. All right,
Okay.
moving on to item number 2, the consent agenda. Who speaks to that?
Good morning, Brenda Connor, Account Maintenance Officer. We would like to enter the assessment on the following dockets. Docket 589, Choice by Telecom applications for ETC certification, $612.79. Docket 669, Broadband VI, $3,530. Docket 670, Liberty and AT&T applications for ETC certification, $1,950. Docket 691, St. John Ferry Rate Investigation, Transportation Services will be $7,050, and Vala Ventures will be $7,050. That concludes the consent agenda.
All right. Any objection to the those assessments?
No.
Hearing none, by acclamation, it is approved. Thank you. Next item, number 3, annual assessment, fiscal year 2026 annual assessment. Who speaks to that?
Brenda Connor again. Staff recommends that the commission enter an order for the 2026 annual assessment for the operations of the Public Services Commission Office. The assessment, the total budget is $2,079,290.51. The assessments on the regulated entities are as follows. Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, $1,762,128.52. One Communications, $131,808.87. A second. One Communications, St. Thomas and John Cable, $65,015.68. One Communications, St. Croix Cable.
Okay, I'm excuse me. What report are you looking at? We have.
Oh, I'm reading.
We don't have those numbers.
This is the latest. Oh, we don't have that. Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority.
Yes.
Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority is $19,341.32. Vala Ventures is $64,362.68. Sorry, $34,362.68. Transportation Services of St. John, $23,032.48. So for a total of a 2026 annual budget of $2,079,290.51. And that will be the annual assessment for fiscal year 2026.
Any questions or comments?
Oh,
All right, can I get a motion to approve the 2026 annual assessment? Allocations? So moved by Commissioner McGrath, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sams. Discussion? Hearing none, roll call?
Commissioner McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nichols Sams.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Pedro Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 voting yea to accept the annual assessments.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Connor. We'll move on to item number 4, waste management matters, docket 708. Who speaks to that?
Attorneys.
He's there. There. Attorney Spree.
Apologies, it took me a minute to get my microphone working. Docket 708. Excuse me for a second. Docket 708, unfortunately, we've had to report that the potential hearing examiner, Lauren Klieger, has instead withdrawn from the position or the offer. And we are now in the process of once again looking for a hearing examiner for this matter. That is becoming problematic, but we have no hearing examiner currently offered to fulfill this role.
Okay. Okay, so is that question?
Are they putting out RFPs or looking for? Have you done anything regarding a search?
We have done several things in the past to look for it. I cannot. I have to say I'm a little a loss here. I've been on vacation for a couple of weeks. I can't tell you what's been done in the last couple of weeks since we received Mr. Klieger's notice that he was withdrawing his name. It is something that is certainly a high priority for me, but I can't tell you what's happened until I get back to the office.
When did we receive Attorney Klieger's notification of withdrawal?
Number 17.
Was there a reason given?
No.
Had he accrued
Well,
any?
I should qualify that. He said the press of other matters made it impossible for him to go ahead and accept this work at this time.
Had we accrued any billings to that individual?
No.
Okay. Now, if there's nothing else on that matter, we can move to docket 692. I believe I indicated that the new executive director for waste management called me last evening, asked to be excused, that he's new in the position and he has not had time to be brought up to speed on this matter. So he asked us to continue it until the next commission meeting, assuming there's one next month in October. And I indicated to him that we would. But is there anybody else on the line to speak to that matter?
If I may, Chair.
Oh, go ahead, Attorney Spree.
I would note that AST has had this matter pending before the commission for nearly 2 years, roughly 2 years at this point. We have been trying for about the last 3 months to get a meeting with Waste Management to discuss this, and this is where this matter has been stalled, as effectively is reaching any sort of agreement with Waste Management on steps to move forward. We recognize that there is now a new director at Waste Management, but Waste Management has been the holdup in deciding whether this is a project that should proceed or not. So I think we need to convey to the new executive director very strongly that this needs to be a matter of some urgency in his attention.
Mr. Spring, is there anybody from Waste Management in St. Croix?
Good.
Yeah, sir. Contract room is empty. I guess the answer to that is no.
Good morning, Chair.
Can
This
you hear
is,
me now? Oh,
Yes.
go ahead.
sorry, Chair, there's no one from Waste Management here on St. Croix. That's
All right,
it.
thank you. Thank you.
And then the young lady that's gonna be our fellow, she's back on.
Who is that gentleman who was trying to speak?
He's,
Yes.
do you want to say something?
Good morning, Chair. This is Jason Levescont with AST. Just to add to Mr. Sprain's points, the funding for the project on St. John still remains in place. This is part private equity and part financed. We also, one of the primary elements that we need to put in place, as well as what Mr. Sprain told you, is the purchase power agreement, which derives everything else out of that one agreement, including the supply agreement, the land lease agreement from Waste Management Authority. So that also, I know this is not within the Waste Management docket here, but it's shortly coming up. And I think that that also needs to be given some degree of urgency, as well as I say, it derives everything else.
When was the last time you had a meeting with anybody from Waste Management?
I would say would be when I visited St. Thomas, the Bavoni landfill, with Miss Hendricks and the engineer. That would be approximately March of this year.
Is there a draft lease agreement?
No, we haven't seen one at this point.
And you have not proposed one or submitted one?
No, we have not. As I said, I think the land lease agreement, even a draft of, would be predicated by the purchase power agreement. And usually that's a draft that Waste Management would provide.
I'm a little confused. The power purchase agreement is a water and power authority agreement.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Attorney Spain.
Yes, we've had discussions, PSC staff has had discussions with WAPA's management regarding a power purchase agreement. WAPA has indicated they have no problem accepting the amount of power that would be produced by the proposed facility on St. John. The dollar amounts of the proposed amount for a power purchase agreement is something that the commission sets. It would be based on the avoided cost of WAPA at that time. I don't want to give numbers out here now, but we have a number of models for power purchase agreements. So drafting a power purchase agreement should not be in any way a lengthy time problem. It's simply setting the final dollar amount that would be involved in the purchase price per kilowatt hour of delivery. The proposed project is a base unit. It would be on 24/7 much of the year, most of the year. It would be a minimal amount of power. It would probably provide some base load security on St. John, but it would not substantially change WAPA's overall consumption of power.
And just to add to that, Chair, the draft purchase power agreement was provided to us by WAPA. I would say I wasn't around at that time, but I would say around about a year and a half ago. And essentially we've accepted the terms of the purchase power agreement. As Mr. Sprain says, it's really just confirming the rate that we're allowed to sell electricity back to WAPA.
Was
But
the
have
rate,
you executed a power purchase agreement with WAPA?
Not executed, we have a draft in place.
does that draft have pricing?
Yes,
Okay, so it seems like we ought to be able to cause some progress here with WAPA. We're responsible for the amount, although they can certainly propose it. And you say your project is somewhat predicated on the execution of this power purchase agreement.
that's correct.
I don't quite understand. If you know the numbers, what would the lease have to do with the power purchase agreement?
I think one of the appendixes of the purchase power agreement provides the agreement for the land lease to be established within the purchase power agreement. That's the only link between the two.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that would be a matter for a power purchase agreement, but be that as it may, we still have to get Waste Management to be responsive. Can I just ask a couple questions about the Waste Management situation? Who are you proposing to lease the land from?
Waste Management Authority, the
Okay.
site at on St. John where they transfer their waste existing today.
Okay, so how would it affect your project if this project, St. John is a special place, and from a development standpoint, if you were to move this project over to St. Croix, where you had virtually a scalable amount of waste to work with, how would it affect your project? Are the tipping fees substantially different and a driver here?
No, there's no tipping fees as part of the agreement. This is essentially selling power or indeed liquid back to the market. We can go either way. So there's no tipping of fees associated with St. John. We haven't contemplated St. Croix, but essentially this is what it is. The economics are baked in around selling a reasonable rate back to the grid.
Yeah, that rate's not going to change whether it's St. John or St. Croix. It would be nice to know what the objections of Waste Management to this project could possibly be. They're not having to pay to dispose of waste, which would be typical. They have land in both places, a substantial amount of land available in St. Croix. There's an almost unlimited supply of municipal solid waste for your purposes in St. Croix, and I think you're substantially taking most of what you can use in St. John. So does anybody know why Waste Management seems to be having such a hard time coming to the table and expressing their thoughts here? Anybody?
No.
Yeah. I think the PSC has a role here to compel that.
I believe I'm being told that there's somebody from Waste Management on St. Croix.
Hey, good day, everyone. Darryl Griffith, Chief Financial Officer here. I'm here with Barita Saldana, the Executive Assistant for Waste Management Authority. With
Okay.
the purchase.
Hold on.
Sorry.
We're gonna ask you to raise your right hand to be sworn.
Sure.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony and evidence that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Griffith, we understand from the news that there's a new executive director for the Waste Management Authority, is that correct?
That is very correct, sir.
And you're testifying today and making these presentations with the approval and consent of the new executive director. You're speaking on his behalf?
I am, well, I'm not, I wasn't aware that this would be part of the conversation, so we did not have that discussion.
I don't understand your response. You did not know that what was going to be part of the conversation.
The current firm in front of us that's interested in, I think, purchasing trash from Waste Management Authority.
You did not receive a copy. The authority did not receive a copy of the PSC's agenda for today. Roman numeral 4B that lists AST Clean Tech on the agenda on the waste management matters.
On the waste management, I must have mislooked it because what I saw was the agenda item on fees. Maybe that's because I was just looking at it with my CFO hat, but that was the only thing that struck my attention underneath waste management. So my apologies, but that was the only thing that we discussed.
Are you in a position to respond to our interest in why you haven't engaged with this entity? You have a legal obligation to do so. They have a QF designation. You're illegally obligated to negotiate in good faith with an entity that has received a QF designation.
I think the 2 times we scheduled a meeting with them, they had to be rescheduled. I think the last time it had to be rescheduled because of because the authority was closed or the government shut down. The government shut down because of the storm delays. So we have no, there is no issue in us sitting down with them. What's going to happen though is that over three other companies have presented similar ideas to us within the last 12 months that have been the interim ED. So we're going to sit down with them and then bring all of this to our new executive director and see how we can equitably present what we have to all of the entities and make a fair decision. So most likely it'll have to go out on some type of procurement.
Well, I don't know what you're procuring. You have no financial commitments under this. There's only one company with a QF designation. We've already passed the point at which we were debating whether or not you're going to talk to this entity. These projects are not mutually exclusive. They're essentially, at this level, a lab project. There's no significant commitment of waste. I don't think you have any other solutions over on St. John being proposed. I don't understand the reluctance of the Waste Management Authority to act in good faith in this discussion. We're going on years with this now. It's great that people keep showing up. Solid waste, waste energy is, pretty established. But you can play this game forever, Mr. Griffith, and never enter into a substantive discussion. I'm kind of tired of it.
Well, there is no reluctance on our side to have the discussion, so.
It's a land lease for a lab project. How hard could it be? This entity isn't even asking you for a tipping fee. They're offering to dispose of waste which you otherwise have a direct cost to dispose of. I don't understand what could possibly be the reluctance of taking them up on their offer.
We haven't met with them to hear the offer yet, so we have just have to meet with them.
That would seem to be a problem on the part of the Waste Management Authority. I don't know how long it takes for you to actually schedule a meeting and meet with someone. Apparently years. So we've been talking for years.
You've been talking to different people for years, so
been talking to you for years, actually, in your capacity as director, and you were unable to address the QF responsibilities of the authority.
I've only been a director for 12 months, so it's impossible for it to be years, sir.
Okay, well, 12 months then.
All right, hold on. Mr. Griffith, can you offer the company 3 dates now that they can meet with you or whoever's the appropriate person?
Sure, I would say it would be the executive director on this one. to
I'm
meet,
sorry?
it would be the executive director to meet on this matter, because I'm back in my role as the CFO, so Miss Barnes right next to me, Saldana, Ms. Saldana right next to me can look to see if there's some available time on the ED's calendar now, and then we can give you a couple of dates for them to sit down with the leadership team, especially the solid waste team, to go over this. Can you pull it up and see what days would work? And just, we'll give you 3 days and we'll go forward from there.
Can I speak?
Oh, of course.
For the record, Verita Saldana, Special Assistant to the Executive Director. I would prefer, being that this week will actually be 3 weeks that Mr. Weir is on board with the Waste Management Authority. Rather than giving a date right now on his availability, I would like to get back to you guys with that, if it's okay.
No, it's not okay. I want you to give the company 3 dates now that's available. This has been dragging on long enough. Mr. Ware will make himself available to speak to them.
Okay, I'm looking at that now.
While that's happening, the young lady, Miss Isabel Winstead, is back online, the fellow for the Department of Energy. So I don't know if you wanted to have her introduced while we're waiting for the dates.
I want to do this. We're listening, Ms. Saldana.
Okay. And the meeting have to be in person, am I correct? Yes.
So,
It has to be in person?
no, it could be by teams,
don't-
right?
I
Is
don't
there
know
a
that it has to be.
preference?
Jason, do you have a preference?
Sorry, I was struggling to get off the mute. Thank you, Chair. No preference, we'll accept all options.
Okay. The first date, Tuesday, October the 21st,
That works for us.
What time?
10:30.
What was the date again, please?
October 21st
Tuesday,
at
October the
10:30.
21st. The second date that I would like to propose, Thursday, October the 23rd,
Also accepted.
At what time?
2:30 in the afternoon.
Accepted.
And I'll provide one more date. Thursday, October the 30th,
That's fine.
9 o'clock.
Also fine. Thank you.
Any
All right,
objection?
we'll leave it up to y'all to work out the details. If it's gonna be in person, send, I can't pronounce your last name, so I'll just say Jason. Send Jason an email confirming place and the time. If it's gonna be by, electronically, send him a Zoom link or an electronic link or Teams.
I think it should be Teams in case, I think it should be Teams in case anybody else wants to sit in on the meeting.
Yeah,
instead of-
Mr. Chair, any objection to Mr. Springer attending, from anyone, Mr. Springer attending these meetings?
Well,
No.
if it's appropriate, I'm not sure whether it's appropriate for.
I think it may be necessary that we understand the objections of the authority. This is kind of a policy discussion at this point, and that makes it a PSC discussion. This isn't as simple as just disposing of waste. We've been looking at waste management for years. It's right in the crosshairs of regulating the authority. I think.
All right, so if you'll include Mr. Springer in that conversation, notify him of when the meeting is gonna be and how it's gonna be conducted, whether in person or electronically, so that he can attend or participate.
Okay.
Yep.
All right? Anything else on this matter from anybody? Thank you.
Thank you.
Gonna move on to item number 5 on the agenda, telecommunication matters. Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Thanks. Here it comes.
Mr. Springer?
Yes, good morning again, commissioners. I would like to introduce you to Isabel Winston. She's our new energy fellow from the Department of Energy. She's replacing Miss Solange Camacho, which was our old fellow from last year. So she's online right now, and I will let her introduce herself and a little bit of her background.
Hi, you guys. Like Jamil said, my name is Isabel Winstead. I am the new EIF fellow. I'm super excited and grateful to be here. My background is from UC Berkeley. I got my bachelor's of science in
Oh, you're breaking
environmental
up,
economics
you're
and
breaking up.
policy,
Breaking up.
where I
Hold
focused
on,
on
hold
energy.
on. You're breaking up. You need to start over. We can hear you.
How about now? We doing good?
That's better.
Okay. Let me know if I cut out again. I will be in person in exactly a month, so we can run this back again and maybe grab some coffee and get acquainted more deeply later. But I'll just repeat what I said for now, if that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am the new EIF fellow. I got my bachelor's of science in environmental economics and policy, where my research interests were utility reform, energy democracy, and the energy transition. And I'm super excited to get some more experience here and learn from you all. I've looked into you all a bit and am very impressed by your backgrounds and hope to one day have the same sort of position that you guys are operating in. So far, in my first month, I've built out a descriptive statistics report that reviewed the previous decade of the generation mix on island and also the rates for the last decade, and created a brief report for that. But I'm also working on time of use rates for EVs by comparing what we could do on island to a couple case studies and typical utility policies for time of use. And I'm also looking into building out sort of a cost analysis on how much it would be to perhaps retrofit some of the EV charging stations we have on island with solar, so we can sort of ease the burden of having the funding from the Department of Energy run out for making the EV chargers free for people to use. And I'm excited to see what other projects I take on in my first year. And I'm really excited to be listening in on this meeting. I already learned so much from item 4 with the waste management matters. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, let me know. Hopefully that's a sufficient introduction to me.
Thank you.
Well, welcome aboard. We're happy to have you and look forward to your good work on behalf of the commission over the next year or so. Welcome.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And then, yeah, if you guys want to meet up in person when I'm on island, I'll be there in November. So I'm excited to shake your hands in person and to get acquainted face to face.
All right, looking forward to it. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Winston. We're now gonna move on to item number 5, telecommunication matters. Docket 589 and 664. Right, telecom? First communications. Who speaks to that?
Good morning, commissioners. This is Mike Neely from Vantage Point. I'll speak on behalf of staff, if that's all right.
Go ahead, Mr. Neely.
All right, thank you. Pursuant to FCC regulations, any state or territory that wants its federal high-cost ETCs to continue to receive federal universal service fund support, they must file an annual certification with the FCC and with USAC that those ETCs in their territory use the support in the preceding calendar year and will use the support in the coming calendar year only for the purposes for which the support was intended. So this is an obligation actually on the states and territories to make that certification to the FCC and USAC, or else those high-cost ETCs in their territory will actually lose the support. But it's the obligation of the ETC to prove to their state or territory that they use the support as intended, so that they can in turn certify to the FCC and USAC. And this certification must be filed by October 1 annually, and failure to do so or a willful decision not to do so will result in the ETCs losing support on a pro rata daily basis until certification is made. Vantage Point Solutions, which is the consulting firm I work for, was retained by the commission staff to assist in reviewing the high-cost support use in the territory and to submit reports to the commissioners with recommendations on whether to certify their ETCs. I submitted those reports on September 12th to the staff for commissioner review as well, and hopefully you've had a chance to review them. There was confidential and public versions. Before getting into each company specifically, I wanted to briefly describe my methodology. To prepare the reports, I reviewed publicly available data regarding each company, their USF disbursements, the details of the specific programs that they participate in, FCC orders, regulations, all describing their programs and their requirements. I also had discussions with the VI PSC staff, as well as representatives from all the companies themselves. I also prepared a series of discovery requests that I submitted to both ATN International, which is the holding company of Vitelco, Vitelcom, and Choice. And I also submitted data requests to Liberty Mobile, which owns BBVI and the Liberty Mobile entity that purchased AT&T Mobility. Both of the companies were very responsive to my questions. They provided me all the data that I requested. After my initial formal written discovery, I did submit some follow-up email questions to each company. And again, both of the companies were very responsive to my questions and gave me all the information I needed. So then I took all the data that I received to prepare my reports. And for the commission's information, all of the federally required reports are filed in an FCC docket. It's a WC docket number 18-143, which is the Connect US VI Fund docket. And I'll probably reference that docket a couple more times for each company. So with that introduction, let's get into the first company on the agenda, which is Vitalcom Cellular and Choice Communications. These two companies both operate under the Via Wireless trade name. So for my report, I consolidated all of their data. So Via Wireless receives Connect USVI transitional support for mobile service. The stated purpose of the support is to improve redundancy and resiliency of facilities for 4G LTE or better technologies to ensure continuity of service by preventing or withstanding damage from disasters, including the maintenance of backup power systems for such networks. Recipients also have the obligation to maintain their service area coverage as it existed prior to Hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. Via Wireless received $56,418 in 2024. They should receive $33,848 in 2025 and $33,848 in 2026. Now, the reason for the reduction is that the transitional support was originally supposed to be a phase down over 2 years from 50% down to 25%, ultimately ending June 2025. However, in August of 2024, last year, the FCC decided that it was going to roll USVI mobile support into the 5G for Rural America Fund, and that it would go ahead and maintain that 25% support level until they decide what they're going to do with the 5G fund. And preliminarily, it sounds like it's going to be an auction-based support system, and that once the awardees are selected, they'll phase down this support over another 2 years. But again, that's just kind of their initial proposal, and we're still waiting on final determination, and I'm not sure when that's going to be. So some of Via Wireless's high-level information is publicly available in the 18143 docket. But some of the more specific information was labeled by the company as confidential. The data that I reviewed shows that they spent over $63,000 on backup batteries at different cell sites across the territory. And if you look in my actual report, it shows the locations where they were, but they were labeled confidential. Via Wireless also certified in the 18143 docket that they meet the geographic coverage area requirement and that they have been properly updating their territory through the broadband data collection portal. They also provided me their coverage reports that they had to file in 2018 and 2019 during that original restoration period, when they had to phase it up from 66% coverage up to 100%. And those were all approved by the FCC, and I'm satisfied that they are complying with all the requirements of the program. And so based on all the evidence I saw, I am recommending certification for Via Wireless. I'd be happy to take questions, and I believe their company reps are also here if you need more specifics. Again, I don't want to breach any confidentiality, so if there's something really specific, you may see if you can get authorization from them to say what those are. But again, happy to take questions, and I would recommend approval for them for certification.
Thank you, sir. Questions, Commissioner Hughes?
None for me.
Commissioner Sams?
No.
Commissioner McGrath?
No question.
I have a question. How much money were they to receive in 2025?
2025, 33,848.
Have they received those funds?
They've been receiving them monthly. I just had to extrapolate out what it would be through the end of the year based on their current draw.
Okay,
But yes,
it wasn't clear to me from your report whether they had received the funds or they were just still waiting for them.
Nope, they received them. Yeah, and again, my original report, I thought the program was expiring June 2025. I'm sorry, my report from last year, I said the program was ending June 2025, but there was a interceding order to continue the program. So they're going to keep receiving this $33,000 figure until the 5G fund is dealt with. And I actually confirmed that with USAC themselves. So they did receive the funding, and the program is still ongoing on that transitional support level. So.
Okay, you also indicated that some information was labeled as confidential.
Mm-hmm.
That's a yes?
Yes.
So when it's labeled confidential, do you have access to that information?
Yes, I do. Yeah, they provided me with, so in the discovery process, you know, if there was something that I found publicly that wasn't available to me, I requested the confidential versions, and they were sent to me.
So you had all the information you needed in order to prepare your report. Am I correct?
Yes.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, there are no further questions. Is there a motion?
I move that the application for the VIA group of companies for eligible telecommunications carrier status be approved.
The second?
Second.
Motion's been made to approve the application by Commissioner Hughes, seconded by Commissioner McGrath. Roll call.
Sure. Commissioner Clement McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nichols Sam.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Pedro Williams.
Yes.
Chairman Williams, we have for voting yes to approve the ETC certifications.
Thank you. I'll move to docket 556, Vitelco.
Next on the docket is Vitelco. Vitelco receives legacy frozen high cost support for price cap carriers. The FCC decided to phase down support for this program from June 1, 2023 until December 31, 2025, when the support will end unless an extension is granted. As you may recall, Connect USVI Fund Stage 2 for fixed locations was intended to replace this legacy support, and that support was awarded to Broadband VI. Subsequent to filing my reports, Vitelco did file a petition at the FCC on September 24 of 2025 under their new OneCom trade name, and they were seeking a one-year extension of the support that they get, basically arguing that because BBVI is not meeting their build-out milestones, that there's a continuing need for support. So it's possible that this support may be extended in some way. That was kind of a new development after I submitted my reports. Vitelco received $5,453,580 in 2024. They should receive the exact same amount in 2025 and $0 in 2026 unless there is some kind of extension granted partially or in full from the FCC. We'll have to wait and see on that. During the...
You just said Vitelco. Are we discussing Vitelco here or Liberty Mobile?
This is Vitelco.
Okay.
So for the phase down period of Vitelco's support, it is intended for resiliency and redundancy measures and to maintain their footprint for voice and broadband service as of June 1, 2023. And more specifically, the FCC required Vitelco to actually submit a list of resiliency and redundancy projects that they were going to complete with the money. And Vitelco is required to report on the progress of those projects. And Vitelco will also have to refund any money that is not used in accordance with that approved program. Their spending plan that they submitted was approved on April 3rd, 2024. I was provided confidential copies of the approved spending plan and those projects listed and the estimated costs to complete those projects. I was also provided confidential copies of Vitelco's spending reports showing their progress towards project completion. These documents are again available in public form in the 18143 docket, and the full information is in the confidential versions of my report. However, again, most of the information is labeled confidential, so I'll just discuss at a high level. Essentially, Vitelco has made progress on its project list. However, they did have a major project at the Tutu Central Office that was not on the original list, and they asked the FCC for a waiver to get recovery of that. And there's no FCC order out there that approves or denies their waiver request, but Vitelco told me during discovery that the FCC paid for it, and so it appears that it was approved via implication. And review of the data shows that Vitelco continues to use its funding towards resiliency and redundancy measures as they are required. And they have until December 31st, 2026 to complete its spending. And again, any unused funding will have to be returned to USAC. So there's very little risk that any money is going to be used improperly because the FCC is just going to disallow it if it's not supposed to be used for it. So I haven't seen any issues or evidence of improper spending. So I am also recommending approval for Vitelco. And again, I believe their company reps are here as well, but happy to take questions and recommend approval.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, in the event that the request for the extension is approved, does that have any effect on any other carriers' receipt of funds in the territory? Is it a swap out of funding, or is it additional funds?
I mean, it was kind of a lengthy pleading, but my recollection is it wouldn't affect anybody else. It would just continue their support. So it'd be extra. Like it wouldn't reduce BBVI's support, if that's what you mean. It would just be an additional year for Vitelco.
So this would essentially mean additional funding to the territory, not a net zero effect.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Not as far as as I remember.
Commissioner Hughes, this is Paul Karupis with One Communication. Just to clarify
Hold on. If you're gonna speak, you have to be sworn, sir.
Yes, sorry about that.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony and evidence that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption. So it is correct that we are just seeking to extend the funding, which would constitute additional funding for the territory and not it's not a zero-sum game. When the FCC originally awarded us the transitional funding, it was linked to the progress that Liberty was making on its deployment, the stage 2 deployment project that the FCC is funding for Liberty. And there were some assumptions built in relative to Liberty's progress. But as this commission is aware, the Liberty has not met the milestones that were set out in the project. And so we have asked the commission to extend our funding pending achievement of those milestones, but it would be funding in addition to what Liberty is receiving.
So nothing in your application is a request that the FCC divert funding from Liberty?
Correct. No diversion, just additional.
Thank you, Chair. I don't have any further questions.
Commissioner McGrath?
Yes, what type of redundancy projects were being funded with this money?
So at the original outset, when the FCC granted the transitional funding, we were looking at a number of measures intended to provide backup operation to the wireline network, so that in the event of a storm the wireline network the restoration of the wireline network could happen more quickly. Since that time, though, since the time of the original submission, I think, as we all are aware, the Water and Power Authority is having some challenges relative to the grid and maintaining that on a consistent basis. And so we've been seeking to shift some of our emphasis towards power solutions because that is becoming an increasingly difficult challenge for us and our customers. And so we are trying to shift the emphasis more towards power resiliency than anything else.
Thank you.
Mr. Neely, you testified that the company had requested a waiver for some work at I believe, the 22 Central office. Is that correct?
I didn't hear the first part of your question. When they submitted one of their spending reports, they had a very large spend on that 22 Engineering Central office, and they did put that they were requesting a waiver because it wasn't in their original approved list of projects. So that when they submitted their original list, there was a listing of projects and what they were going to do, and this was not in that list. And so they explicitly asked for a waiver, and I never saw an order approving it or denying it in any way. And the company said that the funding was given to them and it wasn't withheld. So My understanding it was approved, but I don't have any formal documentation from the FCC. Maybe Paul could,
Yes, again,
No,
this
no,
is,
no, hold on. Before we go to Paul, Mr. Neely, I'm with you. Based on my understanding from your report, my question is, are you aware of any federal regulation that governs this that says a project can be approved by implication?
like a procedural, FCC procedural regulation.
I mean, you're the expert. I'm actually, I don't know. Based on your knowledge, when a person makes a request for a waiver, what do the regulations provide? Do they have to wait for the FCC to approve it? If there's no FCC action within a certain number of days, is it automatically approved or automatically rejected? Or if there's no action, is it approved by implication? Because that's the company's position, as I read your report, is that it's approved by implication. My question is, do you agree with that position?
Well, I mean, I would prefer to see, like, you're asking whether the regulations require that if they're requesting a waiver, should there be an order officially approving it? And my answer would be yes. But they sort of qualified their question and, they sort of qualified their request for a waiver in their request. They said, if we need a waiver, we're asking for a waiver type of deal. And the FCC is, sometimes notoriously slow on these things. I mean, in my opinion, there should be an order, but I don't know why the funding would have been dispersed absent the order. So I guess I truly don't know the answer.
Can you find out the answer to that question for me, please? Because I would like to know whether or not these waivers could be approved by implication or because of the commission's failure to act.
Okay.
Because if it can, then they acted in violation of the law, as far as I can tell.
so if I may, Mr. Chair, the process by which the FCC has conducted this extended funding has not been a formal process. At the time of the original order, they asked us to submit a list of projects that would qualify, that we believe would qualify as a resiliency measure, because it was not defined, they did not define resiliency measures. And so we did submit a list, and in fact, the list exceeded the funding. Our budget estimates exceeded the funding that we were to receive. So we gave that to the FCC as an example of the types of projects that we would pursue with the funding that they authorized. And the FCC approved that broad list of programs. And so then we just proceeded to execute on those. But again, given the nature of the business, the changing circumstances in the market, our priorities shifted in terms of what we wanted to spend the resiliency funds on. And then, as Mr. Neely pointed out, we did submit in our report to the FCC an explanation as to why we put funds towards the Tutu Engineering Building rather than some of the other projects, explaining how it was consistent with the notion of resiliency. We did not think a formal waiver was required because, again, this has not been a really formal process. But as Mr. Neely pointed out, we did say to the FCC, if the FCC believes a waiver is required, we're requesting it. There was no response from the FCC, so they did not indicate that a waiver was required. They did continue the funding, so it does appear to have been accepted. And again, because of the informal nature of all of this, we believe that to be acceptable.
I mean, I understand all of that. My question or my query was, are you aware or can you cite to any regulation that authorize you to reach that conclusion, i.e. that you have an approval of your waiver by implication, or because the commission failed to act, or they didn't act in a timely fashion? I was just trying to figure out what the authority was on the basis for the company's conclusion that the waiver was approved, or at least they could act as if it were approved.
It's not even clear that a waiver was required because, as I said, there was
Okay,
it's just
I
a very
understand, but let's
ill-defined
assume,
program.
Paul, let's assume a waiver was required. We're operating on that premise. If none was required, then it's a moot point. But assuming one is required and you don't have one, then the question is, how do you justify your actions? That's the only inquiry.
Well, I mean, the bottom line is if a waiver is required and not issued, the funds, as Mr. Neely said, are subject to refund. So if at the end of all of this, the FCC determines that we spent the money in the wrong fashion, they would ask for the money back.
I understand. So I've asked Mr. Neely to do the research and determine for us whether or not there is such a approval by implication or some sort of
Well,
action.
I don't believe he'll find anything on the record for that, but okay.
Chair, I don't know that it's relevant to our certification. It's a good question, but ultimately we're just to check one of the boxes checked here. I'm not sure we're put in place to police the FCC's process.
That was the chair's request. Any other comments or questions?
No question.
Is there a motion?
I move that the Vitelco Universal Service Fund certification be granted. So moved.
Second?
Second.
Commissioner Sam, roll call?
Commissioner Clement McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nichols Sams.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Pedro Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 voting yea to approve the Vitelco USF certifications.
Very well, the matter is approved. Moving on to docket number. Yeah. 669.
Yes. 669. Broadband.
669.
yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. This is for Broadband VI. And Broadband VI, they receive Connect US VI Fund Stage 2 for fixed locations. The intent of their support is to require BBVI to build out and provide 1 gigabit download, 500 megabit upload broadband and voice service to 46,039 locations by December 31, 2027. By December 31, 2024, BBVI was required to complete 40% of the build out, which equates to 18,416 locations. BBVI received a 6-month waiver of this requirement until June 30th, 2025, which they failed. Their 60% milestone by December 31, 2025 remains the same, remaining at 60%. And the latest information that I had was that they were at about 12,000 locations. BBVI received $8.45 million in 2024, and they will also receive the same amount in 2025 and 2026. However, due to their milestone failure and BBVI being in a Tier 3 compliance gap, they are having a 25% support withholding right now. So they are not currently receiving the full $8.45 million. Now, depending on whether they come back into full compliance or they reach a better compliance tier, they may have some or all of that support restored. It'll just depend on whether there's improvement. And BBVI readily admits it's not meeting its milestones. They explained through discovery that realistically, they will probably not meet the 60% milestone, which is due at the end of the year. But their anticipation is that they're going to remain at their current pace of build out and stay in that tier 3 gap, which again, a tier 3 is anywhere between 25% and 50% locations fewer than what you were supposed to be hitting. Again, most of the data was confidential. I apologize for that. So I'll try and stay high level. BBVI does use a separate bank account for all the money. They track the funds separately to ensure that these are program specific costs. And I've seen no indication that they're misused. However, since they are not meeting the milestones, a lot of my questions were regarding causes for delays and their attempts to try and resolve those issues that they had. And according to BBVI, their two major issues are pole attachments that they need from the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, otherwise known as WAPA, which is a government entity that provides water and electricity in USVI. And the number two issue is road excavation permits that they need from Department of Public Works or the DPW. And as you might recall with WAPA, there has been an ongoing back and forth regarding delays, culminating in BBVI actually filing a petition earlier this year on January 19th, asking for help getting WAPA to negotiate a pole attachment agreement and abide by their pole attachment obligations. But after the filing, the parties were able to come together. There is a final pole attachment agreement, and the first project under that agreement commenced on July 21. I believe that was the King's Quarter. And I think we just saw a public notice on that too. So there is progress being made on the WAPA pole attachment front. They do have that final agreement. And with respect to DPW and the road excavation, there have been some ongoing disputes over BBVI's work quality and their restoration efforts, which culminated into a stop work order being issued by DPW in November of 2024. So they ordered them to stop all work. BBVI then met with DPW. The stop work order was partially lifted in January, but it was only lifted for pre-existing projects that were submitted. So they are still working on coming to an agreement on a full lift, and maybe the company reps could tell us where that is. But again, it's only been partially lifted at this time, so they're still working through that. So we know that BBVI is not meeting the milestones. We know there's delays. We know they're working on getting their permitting and attachment issues more streamlined. So the ultimate question still remains whether the VI-PSC should certify them that they're using the support as intended, even though they're missing the milestones. So when I posed this question to BBVI in Discovery, they stated, yes, they're failing the milestones, but they are appropriately tracking all their expenditures. They're only spending funds on equipment, machinery, materials, dark fiber, inspections, all those things that are necessary for the build outs. And they argued that they're using their best efforts to get permitting and attachment issues resolved. And from everything I reviewed, I do tend to agree with them with what they're saying, which is that they're making a good faith attempt to progress, even though they are behind schedule. I would also note that the FCC has penalty tiers built into the program, which assumes that some companies are not going to be 100% compliant at all times, and they will have their funding withheld, and they'll have additional reporting requirements, etc. but it wouldn't automatically disqualify you from the program. In this case, BBVI is making appropriate filings with the FCC. They're responding to all the discovery I had. They are trying to work out their delays, and it appears that they're making good faith efforts to get back on track. So again, I am ultimately recommending approval for them to be certified. Happy to take questions on them. And I didn't see who was on. I've usually been corresponding with Adam Marinelli, but if they have a rep on, hopefully they can answer some too.
Marinelli, you want to say anything? Or
Sure. With me is John Santiago. He's the representative of Liberty and BBVI. Happy to answer questions.
Do you solemnly swear that the testimony and evidence that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I so swear.
Thank you.
you state your name for the record?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is John Santiago. I'm Manager for Regulatory Affairs for Broadband BI and for Liberty Mobile USVI as well.
Santiago, is there anything you'd like to add or say to us based on what Mr. Neely just testified to?
Mr. Neely's testimony is broadly correct. We answered all of his discovery requests with detail. We showed the different delays that we've been facing, in which, I mean, I've met with you before on this issue. We've been transparent about the challenges that we've been facing in this build out. It's not an easy build out, right? It's a build out which is predicated currently 85% fiber underground build out. That implies a lot of complexities, right, in the build out, in the trenching, in the digging, and that has led to challenges, right, particularly with the Department of Public Works. The aerial portion, due to the pole attachments that it requires with WAPA, also implied some challenges because of the slow pace of the negotiations, despite our urgency to build due to these milestones that we are facing, right? Thanks to the Commission's intervention in, I don't know if it was in January or February that we met, and the Commissioners pressed WAPA on coming to a final agreement with Broadband BI. We were able to sign a permanent pole attachment agreement in March. That took some time to ramp up. So the first project under that agreement was finished in July. But since then, we've seen a significant improvement in our build out. August was the best month we'd had in terms of build out, in terms of homes passed, until September. September has been the best month, and it's almost, with some releases that we're going to do today of homes passed, it's going to duplicate almost August's numbers, right? We have sufficient permits in place also for October to keep up the tempo for building, which right now what we're projecting is a higher tempo of homes passed than we actually need to reach the deadline by December 31st, 2027, right? That's obviously taking into account the possibility that there might be additional challenges, right, along the way. But in terms of the tiers of non-compliance, like Mr. Neely said, right, this is something that is baked into the rules. The FCC expects that certain companies will face challenges in their build out, as we have. This money is being withheld from us until we come into compliance. Right now, since we're in tier 3 non-compliance, that implies a 25% reduction. That is not a clawback of the funds, right? So it is money that Liberty will recover when it comes into compliance. We expect to come into tier 1 compliance, which would imply a release of those funds by November of this year. With respect to the 40% milestone, and sometime in the first quarter of next year with respect to the 60% milestone. And that's money that will be invested in the Connect USBI program, that will be invested in the Virgin Islands in broadband deployment and high-speed internet for Virgin Islanders. So we are optimistic about our build out. We understand, yes, that there's been challenges, but again, although as Mr. Neely stated and certified, the money that we have received, we have put into the intended uses of the support, right? And that is what the commission is meant to certify today. With respect to the delays, right? If we face delays, this is a reverse auction, right? So we proposed an amount to receive for this build out, right? If there are delays, those delays imply additional costs. That means the company has to foot the additional bill, right? It doesn't mean that the funds go somewhere else or are diverted. Delays signify additional costs, and it's costs that Liberty is bearing, right? So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes?
Yes, on that point, Mr. Santiago, how are your expenditures running relative to, I don't know, the implementation limitations or the implementation reductions? Have you seen are your expenses tracking your original budget, or are they tracking the implementation?
Our actual figures are confidential, Commissioner, but are due to the delays and due to the reduction. Yes, I mean the project is running over the original budget, right?
How much of this project was funded by the overall grant amount, which I think was what, 140 million?
Well, the original amount that the FCC had allocated was, I think, that amount that you mentioned. Since it was a reverse auction, it didn't actually allot that amount, right? So what the money that the FCC ended up awarding, because our proposal was predicated on that amount, was 84 million over 10 years, right? So that is the amount that we are set to receive from 2021 to 2031.
Against the total project cost estimate at that time of how much?
I don't have those figures. I can get back to you and submit them under confidential cover because those are confidential figures.
Yeah, I remember them being disclosed previously. I'm not sure how confidential they could be, but it would be interesting to know. Our interest, of course, is that you have financial viability to complete the project if we're going to continue to show the same forbearance that the FCC has built into their system. So I'm just interested to know that Broadband VI has the financial wherewithal without getting into your balance sheet to complete this project still. So. On the pole attachments question, do you consider that generally resolved?
Yes, generally, yes.
Okay, so in the implementation, you haven't seen WAPA back away from the commitments of the agreement in any way?
No.
Does it require anything from them particularly? I mean, are there crew requirements, or is it essentially a technical specification you just have to continue to meet?
Well, we do coordinate with them sometimes to be on site, and they have been very responsive with us when requiring some of their staff to be on site for pole attachment. It did again, like the agreement was signed in March. It took a while to ramp up until we could do the first project in July because they hadn't at that point procured, I believe, a pole loading analysis firm, a third-party firm to perform that analysis. So that took a while, but that's resolved. That's past us. So right now we are working smoothly with WAPA.
Okay. Well, I'm just trying to anticipate any future additional delays to that aspect of the project. So if you see that coming at you, please make the commission aware.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Hughes. Commissioner Stearns?
He come back.
Sure. Commissioner McBeth?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, Good afternoon, or good morning, so, yeah. How many, subscribers are actually on your fiber network?
It's, I don't have the latest numbers. It is relatively low compared to our build out numbers, right? There's been, I would say, slow catch up with regards to the subscriber numbers.
The reason I ask is because your marketing has been extremely high for something that is extremely low.
Yes,
I mean, you're advertising fiber and you don't have it.
Well, we seek to advertise principally in the areas in which there is availability, right? And the towards the end of the program, which will be in 2 years, there will be fiber in 100% of the locations at the required speeds in the Virgin Islands. So,
at the speed that you're going, you think you're going to make that 2-year window?
Yes.
Let me ask you, are you aware that the legislature is considering legislation regarding your trenching? Not you in particular, but trenching in general, and returning the streets to their previous or their prior condition?
We are aware, yes.
Okay, because that's going to affect your costs too.
Certainly. Yes, these are things that we're taking into consideration. Things that, you know, we're also in dialogue with DPW about, trying again to coordinate, you know, make our best efforts to coordinate so no one wants ripped up streets, right? I think our desire is to coordinate as best we can with DPW so that work is done efficaciously. We and you know, the delays we've had, and in the report that you may have read, DPW did detail, right, some issues with the restoration, etc. It's not because we everything had been discussed previously with them in terms of the material being used for this, etc. But just the material that had been pre-approved by them, used by us, didn't hold up in the end. We needed to have additional technical advisement from the company that prepared the material to come in. It's been a process, right? But we are definitely in close communication with DPW to ensure that that restoration of the streets, once the micro trenching is done in the best manner possible. So,
are you still using 100% micro trenching?
I understand that no, it's not 100% micro trenching. So in some areas we've switched to different methods depending also on what is DPW's preference, right? For sometimes working not on the street but on the side of the street, or sometimes a bigger trench than a micro trench is more appropriate. So we've tried to adapt, right, to the requirements of the DPW as it comes, right?
Mr. Neely, you indicated that those areas of you inquired that the asserted some confidentiality. When that is done, did you agree with all the areas that they said were confidential?
Well, they don't really provide me justification, and I'm not as familiar with the USVI's statutes to know how that works. I usually just kind of accept it and mark it. I mean, generally, confidential commercial information, trade secrets, those type of things are protected under laws. So, I mean,
So,
I didn't challenge the
hold on.
justification.
So when they said that something is confidential, you basically just accept it at face value. Is that what I'm
Yes.
hearing? Okay.
Yes, I do.
Do you check with our staff, our local staff, to get any input as to whether something should be deemed confidential or not?
I think I've discussed it with Boyd from time to time, but I haven't actively moved to disclose anything.
Okay.
So I'm just not as familiar with your rules on what legally is allowed to be labeled or the procedure for disclosure.
I mean, the gist of my question, and legal counsel for the company may want to think about this, is because you agree that something may be confidential or you don't object to it, does that bind the commission members in terms of what questions we may pose or what information we may disclose in a public setting? That's the gist of my concern. Because I don't know that I want anybody else to bind the commission in terms of what we can or cannot delve into.
I would just say I'm not making any assertion that I agree that it is confidential. I would just say that because they labeled it as such, and I'm not challenging it in any way. Hopefully that is clear, but if you have procedures to disclose it, you know, I'll do as directed.
Mr. Chair, if I may speak.
Hold on. I think Council Attorney Manelli wanted to say something.
If I may, just briefly for the commission's sake, when it comes to public filings that my office files with the commission, if there is something to be deemed confidential, we file both a redacted version and a unredacted version for the commission's consumption, with a motion included requesting that specific confidentiality. With respect to the discovery request at Vantage Point, a third party request from us, we have obviously the right as a public entity, as a private entity dealing with another third party to not allow him to disclose that information. If the commission itself has particular data points that they would like from my client and make that request in writing, we're happy to provide that. And if it is deemed confidential by the company, we'll do the same procedure that we have in previous filings with the commission, which is to file a version for the commissioner's eyes only, and then a version for the public consumption.
Okay, so let's assume you file something with the commission saying that they should be confidential. Are you expecting the commission to either agree or disagree with that representation?
Generally, in my practice, and again, this might be a question for Attorney Sprain, but in my practice, if we make the request and the motion is granted, then the commission would be bound by that granting of the motion. If at any time our request for confidential protection is denied, I think that there is a procedure under the regulations for us to seek judicial review of that attempt at public disclosure prior to its disclosure. But again, I think I defer to Attorney Sprain on that particular issue.
Attorney Sprain, you want to weigh in?
Yes, thank you. We do not make, as a staff, a determination on the propriety of their confidentiality claims as a general rule. We are aware that there are both confidentiality protections under Virgin Islands law for trade secrets and information of a financial nature where there's competition, which is certainly the case in telecom, and that there are substantial confidentiality precedents at the FCC. We do not, however, prohibit the commission from seeking to make public information. If the commission wishes to make public information that has been filed under a claim of confidentiality, the filing party has an opportunity to contest that before the information is made public. We've never had that process actually reach that level. So we have not got a current sort of set of policies. We would have to invent that process to an extent, if we will, but we would have to afford the company the opportunity to do so. However, the degree to which confidentiality is ultimately granted or denied is ultimately at the discretion of the commission.
All right, thank you. Getting back to Mr. Neely, do we have a copy, was the copy of the poll attachment agreement submitted to you in discovery?
I did, yeah. Would you like me to send that to you?
Yes, please, if it hasn't
Okay.
been. All right, I think Commissioner Hughes asked one of my questions, so.
Okay, I think this is from Mr. Neely. You said that, the company is in a tier three non-compliance. You said it was between 20 and 50%, of delays. Is that correct? Or I'm just trying.
Yeah, it's just based on the total locations they're supposed to be at and what they're actually at. So the tier 3 is 25 to 50% lower. It's in that range of their failure. So they're
So
supposed to have
where are-
18,000.
When you talk about 20 to 25 to 50%, where are you guys in that range?
Currently,
Yes.
so we, with some releases that we have today, we are at, 13,000 and change. 40% is 18,000, for the 40% milestone, right? That we're meant to meet. It's about 18,000. I don't, I wish I could have my cell phone here so I could do the
I'm
calculation.
trying to figure out
really
like where we are,
But,
because that's like a really big range.
yeah.
So,
So in, thank you, Adam. So. So yeah, so that's about, yeah, it's about 72, 73%. Sorry?
Of the 40.
Of the 40, of the 40% milestone, correct. So again, our projection is that we will reach,
I want to know where you are now your projection.
where we are now is what I just said. It's about 72, 73% of the 40% milestone, right?
Okay.
And that's about 13,000 and change homes passed, right? So again, our projection is that by end of November, we will reach about 15,000 and change, which would be a tier 1 non-compliance, which is just between 5 and 15% gap, right?
Okay. Maybe I need to rephrase my question.
Excuse me. I thought you testified that by November of 2025, you would have reached the 40% milestone. Was not your earlier statement?
No, we'll reach the tier 1 gap of the 40% milestone. But I was saying that stating that in the context of the Mr. Neely was referring to the withholding of funds. The non-compliance gaps specify that in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, you get funds withheld, right? In tier 1, whatever funds were withheld are released, right? Back. So that is why I was stating that projection in that particular context.
Yeah, so I interrupted Commissioner.
Okay. I guess I was trying to figure out like not where you expect to be, but where you actually are right now. And that was my question. Like the non-compliance has a range of 25 to 50%.
Yeah. So
Mr. Neely, were you getting ready to say something?
Well, I think like it would be a 28% compliance gap. If they're at 72% success, then they're 28% failure rate. So in between that 25 and 50, they'd be at 28%.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's what you mean.
Okay, so we need to get what, to 40% in order for you all to start receiving any funds, right?
No, we're receiving funds currently, right? We're receiving funds, but so the non-compliance tiers, they don't imply that you stop receiving funds altogether. You get a support reduction, right?
So you are actually, because I thought, somebody said you all were not receiving funds at this time.
No, we're receiving funds.
Okay, but you have a reduction.
Yes, broadband BI, it's 84 million over 10 years. So it's 8.4 million a year, right? Divide that over 12 months, and you get, I think it's 700 something thousand a month, right? And so tier 3 right now where we are, you get a 25% withholding of those funds. That is for broadband BI, $176,000 a month, right? When you, as you progress through the tiers, right, as we get closer to the milestone, the reduction or the withholding becomes less, right? Until eventually it becomes zero, and the money that was withheld is returned, is unfrozen, right? Sort of, yeah, released.
I have 2 more questions. With the expansion that you guys are doing, what percentage of funds are actually the grant money funds, and what percentage are you guys providing? If that makes sense.
I don't have right now the exact figures on that, but again, that's something that we can submit under confidential.
Okay, and is your funding based on the National BEAD program that was recently restructured, or is that another fund from the FCC?
It's another fund from the FCC. So the BEAD program, going back, the Connect USBI fund was established in the aftermath of Hurricanes Irma and Maria,
Correct.
right? And that's where the money's coming from. The money through which the Connect USBI program is funded comes from the Universal Service Fund. And that's funded by USF fees, which are levied on providers, right? And that is for this particular program. So there are Connect USBI funds for mobile entities, as we were just hearing with VIA and with Liberty Mobile USBI, then for fixed entities, right? For the fixed program, the FCC made available through the reverse auction up to the amount I think that Commissioner Hughes mentioned, which is about $140 million. But that's a reverse auction, right? So
Right.
goes, that's not actually the money that they allotted in the end. The money that they allotted in the end or allocated was the 84 million to the winning bidder, which was broadband BI. Right? The BEAD program, which I believe comes from the Infrastructure Act, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, that I think allocated about my memory maybe is failing me right now, but I think it was like 27 million dollars.
I think it was.
Yeah, $27 million to the Virgin Islands. So much less. That money is currently so in other jurisdictions, say for Puerto Rico and the USBI, which have Connect USBI and Uniendo, the money is directed, at least in part, towards deployment, right? Towards reaching homes. In Puerto Rico and the USBI, since there's already much more federal funding than what was allotted through BEAD, the BEAD money cannot be used for that. It can be used for other purposes, right? The Trump administration, since it had a different view sort of the BEAD program, since it has come into office, has frozen for the time being, the use of the BEAD funds, right?
But are you guys in line to get any of that BEAD funding?
Not currently, and it wouldn't go towards the efforts that we're doing in terms of build out, because they cannot be sort of mixed in together, right?
Okay.
The BEAD funding can be used for other like digital equity, digital education initiatives that I think the U.S. Virgin Islands Broadband Office has already laid out. But they haven't, since the program has been frozen, they haven't really been able to move on that, right?
Before it was frozen, were you all in line to receive any of those funds?
No. I think it's more, the way it was geared more for like educational institutions, instead of like digital literacy.
It's like actually more than that though. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that is a big part of it.
Yeah, but no, the answer is no, we
Okay,
weren't,
cool.
yeah, seeking to.
All right, I was just concerned about your funding source and like what pot of money it was coming from.
No,
Thanks
no,
for the
right now
explanation.
no, thank you.
Cool.
And right now, it's not really being threatened by the actions of the administration with respect to BEAD. Yeah,
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Yeah, what's your total number of households that you are expected to reach when you reach it 100%?
Well, it's measured by locations, broadband serviceable locations, so that includes households and businesses, right? The estimate is 48,000 and change in the whole of the USBI, right? St. John, St. Thomas, St. Croix.
So 13,000 of your 18,000, you're at 72% of that mark, but you're only 27% of the 100%. So in other words, you've only at 13,000 homes that you said you're about or services.
Yes.
You're actually at 27% of the 100%.
27% of the 48,000. Yeah, did you make that calculation?
It's a guess. It's a guesstimate, but more or
Okay,
less.
it's more or less, yes.
Okay. You said you've got a long way to go.
Yes, certainly, but we're making good progress. Again, this quarter, which is finishing today, actually we have a report that we'll be submitting to the FCC as part of our quarterly reports. We have reports due to you also. So, you know, I was saying at the beginning, we've been transparent about our challenges and our progress. And we have reports that we file quarterly to the PSC on new communities reached. That are available for you to review. And under the non-compliance status, we have reports that are due to the FCC also on the number of locations reached. And this last quarter has been our best quarter so far. So our expectation and our hope is that will continue on to the future.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
Motion for the approval of the application of Liberty
Broadband bill.
broadband PA
Attorney Spring has
or
his hand
ETC
raised.
designation.
Attorney Spring?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, I guess it's still good morning. I just wanted to make one comment on the BEAD program. The BEAD program is not one that the Public Services Commission has had any particular role in. In the Virgin Islands, the governor's office has assigned that to the Office of Management and Budget. They have a broadband office within that area, and they have been handling all of the applications for and any disbursements from that program without any actual communication with us regarding how that program is operated. But that has nothing to do directly with this motion or issue. Because the BEAD program has been mentioned several times, I wanted to provide that information.
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Okay. Roll call.
Commissioner Clement McGrath.
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nicholas Dams.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner David Hughes.
Yes.
Commissioner Pedro Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 votes in yea to approve the recertification of broadband VI.
Thank you. We now move to docket 670. Liberty Mobile.
So last on the docket today, we have Liberty Mobile. And Liberty Mobile receives Connect USVI transitional support for mobile service, which is the same one that Via Wireless receives. And again, the stated purpose is to improve redundancy and resiliency of facilities for 4G LTE or better technologies, to ensure continuity of service by preventing or withstanding damage from disasters, including the maintenance of backup power systems for the networks. They also have the obligation to maintain their service area coverage as it existed prior to the hurricanes Irma and Maria in 2017. Liberty Mobile received $443,682 in 2024. They should receive 332,827 in 2025. And they should also receive that same amount in 2026. And again, like VIA, they are going to continue to receive that 25% transitional support level until the FCC rules on how they're going to deal with the 5G fund for rural America. Again, most of the data regarding what the money was spent on was labeled as confidential, but I can just say that at a high level, they spent more than they received on their various hardening and resiliency measures. The full details are contained in my confidential report, and they were also filed in the FCC's 18143 docket, which again, I was provided a version, the confidential version of that filing. They were able to provide me with updated information for the remainder of 2025, but they didn't have at the time a plan for 2026 available. And similar to VIA, you are able to go into the 18143 docket and see that Liberty certified under oath that it's meeting its coverage requirements. And through discovery, they also gave me their maps and the coverage information to show they're still complying with that requirement. And based on all the evidence for Liberty Mobile, I'm recommending certification for them as well, and happy to take questions.
Dave, do you want to step in? Because the chair just stepped out.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
back.
Well,
He's
I'll start with Commissioner McGross.
I have no questions.
Laura, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
I also have no questions, and the chair is returned. So,
Is there a motion?
I move that the application of Liberty Mobile for designation as an ETC in the USVI for stage 1 of the FCC's Connect USVI fund be approved.
Okay, the move by Commissioner Hughes, seconded by Commissioner McGrath. Roll call.
Commissioner Clement McGrath,
Yes.
Commissioner Laura Nichols Sounds.
Yes.
Commissioner Raymond Williams. Commissioner David Hughes,
Yes.
Commissioner Pedro Williams.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, we have 4 voting yea to recertify the Liberty ECT designation.
Have a good day, Commissioners.
All right, thank you, Mr. Santiago. Mr. Neely, thank you for your report.
Yes, thank you.
Now move to item number 6, energy matters. Docket 630. Speak to that.
Mr. Chair, Boyd Sprain here, if I may speak.
Go ahead.
We had requested on all of the matters under this docket, reports from the parties in advance of this meeting. While I'm away from the office, I have not seen any reports received on any of these 4 items. I do not presently see Mr. Joel Hart, who regularly attends our meetings. I'm sorry, he's right there on the screen. Mr. Hart is apparently ready to speak on this particular matter, and I see that Mr. Bourne is also, Attorney Bourne is present, and I presume that's for the next agenda item.
So we can dispense with advanced power.
No, Mr. Hart is present if you want to hear from him.
All right, do we have anybody present for items C and D? Is anybody from WAPA? Yeah. Let's go, so Ms. Sanders.
I don't see anyone.
All right, so let's go to docket 630, Mr. Hart.
Chair, this is not, okay, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Good day, Commissioners. This is Joel Hart with Advanced Power.
Hold on, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart. Commissioner Hughes, you were saying something?
No, I misspoke. I thought this was heading in a different, back to the waste management entity. My mistake, sorry.
No problem. All right, we're docket 620, advanced power application for QF designation. Mr. Hart, you recognize?
Yes, good morning.
You have to be sworn, please.
Hold on.
Do you solemnly swear? Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony and evidence you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for the opportunity to give you the update. I would like to share with Boyd, I did see a request for a written report possibly late yesterday afternoon and did not have a chance to respond to that, but I'll be happy to. Anyway, we've been making good progress on the funding side for the wind project. It's been I think it's been a hearing or two since I've actually testified. I know that the environment, I might just give you a quick update on or an overview about the current environment regarding some of the funding efforts. We have you've all heard about the big, beautiful bill from the current administration that has impacted the timetables for taking advantage of the tax attributes, which is something that we're focused on to try to bring those to bear so that we can help reduce the cost of the project and lower the rates for the ratepayers going forward. And so they have given us more definition and clear and understanding and guidance since that bill was signed into law on July the 4th. There was a Treasury guidance that was provided earlier this month that has to do with safe harboring the projects. And so that's significant in that it's driving us from a milestone standpoint. And so the safe harbor requirements basically require that we have a continual construction by July 4th, 2026 to be able to take advantage of the tax attributes. And it allows a window of 4 years to build a project. Of course, we're not looking to take 4 years, but we do want to preserve those tax attributes between now and July 4th. There is a secondary window that if you don't meet those requirements, then you have till December 31st, 2027 to have the projects online. So there's two windows and two opportunities for us to preserve those tax attributes, and that's what we're focusing on. I do also want to share with you, we have been engaged or had been engaged with the U.S. Department of Energy's Title 17 program, but after the current administration has come into office, they have shifted their focus from renewables to fossil fuel generation, nuclear power, coal, and basically the DOE Title 17 program is not really a viable option for funding on the project or any renewable energy project at this time. There is a positive result from that, frankly, is that they will have we will not have the administrative burden that we would see with any federal program. As I've listened this morning to y'all hear testimony about federal funding, that releases us from not having those particular hurdles to have to deal with. Things like anytime you get federal funding for a project, of course, you have to have NEPA like of this type, you have to have NEPA studies and other things. That is no longer a burden on us moving forward. And I also want to share, even though we've been talking with the DOE for a period of time about funding for the program, we have always been working in parallel with our private funding partners. We have already engaged and signed letters of intent with investors and other underwriters, investment banks that we're working with. We're now in advanced stages of discussion. We're going through due diligence. We're working through with national tax advisory firms in regards to the funding package, the structure. They're validating the models and all the other steps that are involved. There's always challenges involved in project funding. This is no different, but we're making good progress and hope to have formal commitments here in the coming weeks. So I've got more information I can go into, but that's the high level portion of it. We're excited and making good progress. So I'd be happy to take any questions or, happy to hear any of your comments.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Hughes?
No questions, sir.
Commissioner Sams?
No questions.
Yes?
No question.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Hart, and continue to pursue this, and we appreciate your efforts.
Thank you for allowing me to participate.
Staff have any questions or comments? We'll now move to docket 685 via electron. Who speaks to that? Anybody from via electron? That Attorney Boone was on.
Said he's just joining as a spectator.
Okay.
Is Mr.
If I may,
Alonso?
Chair. If I may, Chair,
Hold on.
we received a communication.
Hold on.
Okay.
Is Mr. Lounge on? Christian? No? Go ahead, Attorney Spring.
We received an email earlier this week from Mr. Loranger regarding this project. He had been available at our priorly scheduled meeting date, but he is in New York on some closings today. He indicated he would submit a written report. I have not seen it, but that he would not personally be available today.
All right, so we just gonna table that matter?
Appears so.
Very well. All right, we'll move on to item C, docket 709 Whopper, investigation of fuel acquisition process. Speak to that. Raise the right hand to be sworn.
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony and evidence you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
State your name for the record, please.
Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer.
Nicole Abin, Contract Administration Manager.
I'm sorry, what's your name?
Nicole Abin, Contract Administration Manager for the authority.
Ms. Kelly, before you proceed, was WAPA requested to, are you aware of a request to WAPA to present a written report prior to today's hearing?
We received, Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer, we received an email yesterday asking were there any data or reports or information that we needed to send, and we did send a copy of the LEAC filings to Executive Director Satori, Attorney Boyd, but I was not aware of anything else that needed to be submitted.
That was sent yesterday?
That was sent yesterday. We had sent it previously, but there had presumably been some issues with it being received on your end. So we collapsed the file and it hopefully should have been small enough such that it would go over the email.
Attorney Spain, did we, Ms. Hendrick, did we not send a request to WAPA earlier in the month for them to submit a written report?
Yes, we did. I'm sorry. I'm making sure my microphone is on. Yes, we did. I was just looking for a copy of that transmittal. It was a letter sent by Ms. Sandra Satori. It was forwarded to or sent by my legal assistant, Ms. Reynolds, and I'm looking for that date as we speak. Yes, we did send a request for reports on each of these matters.
Who was it sent to at WAPA, do you know?
I know it's sent to Director Knight. Beyond that, I'm just looking to see if I could find that information.
I do apologize for that, Mr. Williams. We have copies here. May we give you a copy today? Copies of it. I do apologize. We'll make sure. Oh, we have some extras. We'll make sure to give you the electronic copy. I do apologize for that.
And Chair, the information of the request was sent on September 10th to Mr. Knight.
So apologies, Commissioner Williams, would you like us to proceed, or would you like to take a couple of minutes for the? Can we look at it from the?
And hold on, and I thought you indicated, at least to me, that in your monthly or regular meeting with WAPA, you did remind them about the request to submit a written report.
That's correct.
To that letter. Was
That is
Ms.
correct.
Kelly present at that meeting?
Yes. It was not copied on the email. It was sent to Mr. Knight, to Ms. Williams Octoline at ODR, and to Ms. Charles at WAPA.
No, my question was Ms. Kelly present at your monthly meeting?
Yes. The answer to that question was yes. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to confuse the issue.
Okay. She's indicating that she was not, she was on vacation? Is that what you're saying?
I was at a conference. I was at a conference and I took a one-day vacation. I don't remember which day the event was for the meeting, but I was at a conference in Miami for Parrot that week.
Okay.
I'm more than happy, perhaps if we can also make sure to include not only myself, but Attorney Sinclair, just going forward.
Yes,
that would
on
possibly help
September
us.
10th, it was sent to all parties.
All right, you may proceed, Ms. Kelly.
Good morning. So thank you very much, Commissioner Williams. I'd like to hand over to Ms. Urbane to present the liquid petroleum gas LPG RFP timeline.
Good morning again. I'm Nicole Bain, Contract Administration Manager. Okay, so
We can't hear you.
You have to speak
louder,
up.
sorry. Okay, I'm Nicole Bain, Contract Administration Manager for the authority. And I will just go through the timeline thus far, what's happening, as well as what's gonna be proceeding after for the RFP for liquefied petroleum gas PR 03-26. Okay, RFP went live on September 8, 2025, advertised on various social media platforms, various websites, newsletters, and our local newspaper. Packages were sent out directly to approximately 36 vendors locally and nationally. Pre-bid meeting took place on Friday, September 19, 2025 via Teams at 10 a.m. AST. Approximately 10 vendors participated along with the VI WAPA's project team and contracts team. Site visit took place on Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025 at 9 a.m. at our Randolph Harley Power Plant facility on St. Thomas. Approximately 6 vendors participated along with our authority project team. Site visit took place on Wednesday, September 24th, 2025 at 9 a.m. at our Richmond Power Plant on St. Croix. Approximately 4 vendors participated along with our project team. Common events, last day of submitting questions to this proposal has a deadline date of Friday, October 3rd, 2025 at 3 p.m. Additional upcoming event responses to questions submitted in accordance with the RFP shall be transmitted to offerers no later than Wednesday, October 8th at 4 p.m. Finally, a complete copy of the proposal must be submitted electronically in PDF format on or before Friday, October 24th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. AST.
And Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer, just to clarify and confirm, every single timeline that Ms. Levain has just referenced are AST and Virgin Island time.
Yes.
That's the extent of your testimony.
That is the extent of our testimony. Commissioner Williams, we understood that you wanted a timeline. And if there's any information that we have not included here that you might want or your team might want, please let us know and we can provide that to you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Hughes, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was a little unclear when we were discussing the lack of a report. Did the PSC, was the PSC directly communicated a copy of the RFP when it was issued? Were we on the list of distribution?
No, you were not.
Okay, well, just for future reference, we should be in all your acquisition processes. You can just short circuit our request. We'd like to see them all when they are issued. Have we received one since? Anyone on staff? Do we have this RFP?
No.
Okay.
I have never submitted it yet, was not aware.
Okay, I'd like to receive it as soon as possible, please. Electronic form's fine. Can you characterize the changes, Ms. Aubain? I've read the prior RFP in detail, all comments, questions, answers that were submitted by the various vendors from the various visits. Can you just summarize for me in a general sense how this RFP has changed from the prior?
I don't feel there's like major changes. I do know that we did broaden our advertisement platform. We sent it out to a lot more different media than we previously did. That's like the major change when it comes to this procurement. As in for the RFP itself, it was just a little bit more fine-tweeted, but it's pretty much relative information that was the same as the first one.
So a number of the vendors that participated in the last RFP took great exception to one particular item within that document that required quote unquote local storage of LPG. They thought it indicated a substantial misunderstanding by WAPA on how fuel moves and the necessity for local storage as opposed to just a responsiveness, for instance, in the case of like a hurricane or something. Is that local storage provision still in this RFP, the current RFP?
Yes.
So you didn't listen to the vendors that said that that was completely unnecessary and that was exclusionary to all but one party. You kept that local storage requirement in the document.
Commissioner Hughes, Lorraine Kelly, CFO, if we could possibly swear in Attorney Sinclair. She has stepped to the podium. I don't know if you can see her online, but I would like to offer her to assist us with the response to your question.
I'd like to hear from the contract administrator why the utility didn't take that feedback from the various respondents to the original RFP when it was deemed by those parties to be exclusionary to all but one party, that party being Empire Gas.
I would defer the response to our legal counsel for the authority.
Okay, I'm not sure what she can add that you can't, but yeah, sure. Let's have Ms. Attorney Sinclair, please.
Good morning. Do you want me to?
Do you solemnly affirm that the testimony and evidence you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Thank you for your question, Commissioner Hughes. And Dion Sinclair, General Counsel for the authority. With respect to the subject matter expertise required for some of the contents of the RFP, that would be inputted by that department that has particular knowledge and needs with respect to the procurement. In terms of the local storage, it is one of several factors that we listed that would be given consideration. It was by no means not in the present procurement or in the prior RFP, a mandatory component. It is something obviously with the end users who are working with this on a day-to-day basis during scheduling and understanding the wants and needs for generation here in the Virgin Islands. It is something that would benefit the community, and thus it was mentioned inside the procurement.
So it's frankly a little bit unusual that the PSC gets direct inquiry about a procurement procedure by the authority. Certainly, it's unusual that your board members are also solicited because the entities that are responding don't feel like they're getting the response of the utility directly. We got a great deal of feedback regarding.
Hold on, I think.
Yeah, if I
Attorney
can,
Sinclair wanted to respond.
thank you.
That's great, but I haven't actually asked a question yet. So
yeah, this is actually an integral component of the present RFP. There were many concerns about the communications that transpired during the last procurement. We did a deep dive, and in order to safeguard, I think, the integrity of the present process, we copied much of what the federal component asked for. Even though the language was previously in the prior RFP, we tightened it up in this RFP to make it clear that any communications, any requests for influence, any solicitations that are outside the contract manager and the contract department will result in disqualification.
How convenient for you that you
It's not
find a way
convenient,
to.
it is actually standard procurement process. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is exactly why we have a docket open on this, because of the concerns that were expressed to your regulator and to your board, frankly, that weren't addressed by the process. So just to take a step back to the local requirement, the objection that was made is that this is a completely unnecessary and exclusionary requirement because WAPA did not understand how bulk fuel moves in the Caribbean. To require a local storage component without actually having any capability either internally or externally to move that fuel, it makes it an insignificant point and also an unnecessary point, because hurricanes don't stop propane from moving throughout the Caribbean. They just occasionally make the service terminals unavailable. So, we have a hurricane here in the Virgin Islands. It's tough. It might make the ports unavailable, but it doesn't mean that propane stops moving in the Caribbean. They reroute ships. They stand at anchor. They wait for the terminals to be available so that they can fulfill their contracts. And this was the point made by a number of the more established bulk carriers in the Caribbean, including the one that was currently servicing the WAPA account and has for the last 3.5 years. They felt it was used as an exclusionary tactic to essentially, and in fact, I think it was in the words of Director Knight, it excluded everyone other than Empire from, or at least created a preference situation to Empire vis-a-vis all other candidates. And it was deemed to be, I think they made the arguments that it was an unnecessary exclusion, because if you understand how bulk fuel moves in the Caribbean, you would never make such a requirement in any case. It's one of the reasons we have this as an open docket, because those questions still exist, and apparently they exist in the current RFP. So I'm just making the point that you weren't responsive to the industry. You mentioned, Ms. Aubain, that you made direct solicitations to, I want to say 30 some odd vendors. I'm assuming that since it's a well-known population of qualified vendors doing business in the Caribbean, you solicited your current vendor, or at least what had been your current vendor, both Vitol and Carib Gas?
Yes, they are all under the bidders listing that we sent out, yes.
Okay, so your testimony is that Carib Gas and Vitol both were directly solicited with this version of the RFP.
There were two of many others, yes. Like I said, directly we did 36, and if anyone else requested packages, we also send those out as well. And the advertisement, it is available online. The RFP is available online.
Okay. One of the other criticisms, and it came up in the comments of the original RFP, was that the volumes that were used were somewhat pro forma. And I think that also was an answer that Director Knight gave, somewhat of a holding point. They didn't actually reflect either the current consumption of the utility nor its projected. Did you guys tighten up the actual volumes that you were asking people to bid on this time, or did we stay with the same numbers?
The numbers reflect the average of our usage. The previous numbers were also in line with average usage.
I think they were not, but I'm not in a position to demonstrate otherwise today. They were well in excess. And the situation is quite fluid, as you know, in the Virgin Islands, because we're bringing on substantial components of solar, which are reducing our energy requirements to fossil fuels by about 30% on each island. I'm just curious if we reflected at least the future potential for those reductions in this new RFP, or we're asking people to bid the old consumption rates.
Can I just say one thing, just for you to be aware? The procurement process that is followed with the authority is the project managers, project departments, they have a need. And whatever need they have, they put together an RFP. It's not to eliminate or isolate anyone else from any specifics. Is we know what we need and we're requesting from the public for them to provide us the needs. So, and most of it is negotiable. When it comes to RFP, it's a negotiable thing. Just like Attorney Sinclair expressed to you, when you talk about the storage, all of those are suggestions and what we need, and we're hoping that we're gonna get the best results back. So not to isolate or, we're very clear to make sure that, everyone is on an open level.
Okay. Well, I understand.
When it comes to the proposals.
I understand that's how it's supposed to work. And that's why we're asking questions today, to make sure it works that way. But I did find it a little interesting that even though I know that the authority is well aware of the effects to its future consumption, I mean, very specifically has knowledge of how its consumption is going to be changed over time as they replace old, very inefficient generation with new generation, and as they bring online solar and battery storage to reduce the overall fossil fuel requirements. I just find it interesting that you would publish an RFP that makes no attempt to quantify that for the vendors that you're asking to enter into long-term contracts. I understand it's all negotiable, but when you say something is negotiable, what you're really saying is anybody who asks that question, you'll answer it, or enter into a discussion with. But if you have the engineering knowledge, why aren't you just putting that in the document?
I mean, I don't know if there's a misconception. This RFP is for a 2-year process. The end users, as Ms. Aubain has discussed, do a future forecast within their subject matter expertise. Based upon that forecast, they issue an RFP that includes the numbers and the likely average of what would be purchased. I take your comments, and we are all very excited about a future with renewables and everything else. The 2-year window, I do not think would be disparate from the future forecast that was predicted.
Well, at a very minimum, there'll be 30% less fossil fuel by kilowatt hour generated on these two islands over the course of the next 2 years. So it's actually already the case in St. Croix. To the extent that you make any progress at all in the next 2 years at replacing the enormously inefficient fossil fuel generation that exists on both islands and is still in use, you'll also see a reduction in the next 2 years. I'm just restating the comments that were made by the vendors in the first process and wondering why they resulted in no modification to the RFP process in the second case. Now, I haven't seen the RFP, but your testimony today is that it's unchanged. I just find that amazing that we'd go through a process that by the director's admission failed, and we wouldn't actually make any changes to that. That makes no sense to me.
Commissioner Hughes, Lorraine Kelly, CFO. I'm going to make some comments in terms of perhaps on the periphery. I'm myself not involved in the contract management and the RFP process of this, but if I could give you some context, I am in a weekly meeting with the operations management directors and COO of the electric division, as well as internal team members that report to them that Attorney Sinclair made. I was present for some conversations in the run-up to the numbers of kilowatt hours of what our expected usages were for the next year that went into our budget, and then projections for the second year out. Those, excuse me, those conversations led to the expectation of gallons that would need to be purchased. And again, I don't want to misspeak to Commissioner Hughes because I am separate from that project. And I am separate from, I have not seen the RFP, but I do know that we had conversations about that in our weekly meetings. When we plan for our fuel, we have a meeting every week that Mr. Knight, myself, the COO are generally typically involved, as well as there's about 10 people on that meeting. And as part of that, we did project what it was going to be for the next year and the second year out. It would be my expectation that because we discussed that those would have been the numbers that would have been included. But again, I don't want to misspeak, but I do want to let you know that that conversation was had and that finance was asked for us to check it to the budget in terms of what those conversations were.
Thank you. It comes to mind the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. These were prominent comments in the first RFP process. And that's a process that, according to your director, resulted in every single applicant being disqualified in the initial stages. There were apparently no people qualified to supply propane to the Virgin Islands, even though one of the respondents was your current vendor and had been doing it for 3.5 years. That's just an amazing fact to me that we managed to disqualify the entire industry through our RFP process and then didn't make any changes effectively to it.
I just wanted to clarify, when I said it, they tweaked it. We did make some changes to more fine tune the RFP, but our needs are still the same. We still have the need that the authority is requiring to have.
Well,
and again,
I guess we'll find out.
I have to depend on the department, and they know exactly what they're looking for in RFP.
Ms. O'Bain, I know you have to take the inputs that you receive. You're there as an administrative process, not a technical process. So I appreciate that you're somewhat limited in your ability to shape the RFP directly.
Commissioner Hughes, if I could just very briefly, because I don't want, there seems to be a misimpression And I don't want that to be the lasting one with the commissioner, with the commission, or with the public. The reason that the first RFP did not go forward were not that people weren't qualified or vendors weren't qualified to supply. For the price point that was being demanded, it would not have availed itself to anything that would have benefited the authority, and certainly would not have benefited the people of the Virgin Islands. Because of that, and pursuant to our own procurement process, we closed out that procurement. We went to direct solicitations and were able from that process to get a viable option. There were a number of vendors who went directly to regulators or legislatures or elsewhere, I guess, once knowing that they were not selected. And that, to me, impeded the integrity of the process. And it's something that you couldn't do under federal procurement, just to be clear. So in this process, we are tightening that. Undue influence will not be considered or weighed, and it will be a straightforward, transparent procurement.
Well, I am aware, and I'm sure you're aware of it as well. I could supply you with a copy of the proposal, but I'm aware of a proposal that was made directly to the utility, not to the board, not to the PSC, not to senators, that was substantially below the selection that you subsequently made with Empire, and well below the selection that you've made with Empire in the interim 6-month contract. That proposal received no substantial reply from the utility. It had, I know you were on the call. There was a call to qualify that procedure, and it was not a productive call. So I appreciate that, you know, we can talk about federal guidelines for procurement, but the process here has not been productive, and it doesn't seem to be changing. I guess we'll know in 15 days whether or not it results in any new additional interest. This is one of the reasons the Virgin Islands never really seems to be able to get market rate participation from established entities, because we have a reputation for this type of a process. I won't characterize it further, so I don't want to further, I guess, disparage your attempts. But this is the result that you get, is that no one wants to bid on these contracts. You'll get a very limited participation in this case, even though there are 16 companies that do bulk transport in the Caribbean. You're not going to get 16 bids. You might get 1 or 2, plus, you know, the incumbent that you've given the 6-month interim contract to. Chair, I don't have any further. Thank you.
We're gonna hold on. We're gonna let Attorney Sinclair respond, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, and my apologies. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to do.
You don't need to apologize. Just respond if you care to.
Yeah, my concern is with misimpressions that are left. I believe that the proposal that Commissioner Hughes refers to came after our last appearance here. There was a proposal received. It was limited to St. Thomas. It left out completely St. Croix. And although the numbers then could be argued to be less than the one that we had previously picked, the additional cost, and I don't even know if we would have been able to get the ship needed to go into St. Croix, because St. Croix is a particularly challenging channel, it made it almost double in actual value.
That is a complete mischaracterization of that proposal. That proposal, and Chair, I'm going to offer the tenets of the proposal for the record. That proposal.
Hold on, Commissioner Hughes. I said Attorney Sinclair is gonna have the last word, and then we're gonna move on. You all have difference of opinion, and that's
It's
fine.
not a difference of opinion, Chair, and I will respond to the comment because she has mischaracterized the proposal. And I'm
Okay,
not gonna let that
Commissioner
stand on the
Hughes.
record.
Commissioner Hughes, okay, you're not recognized at this point. I'll let you go on after the other commissioners have had an opportunity. Commissioner McGrath, you have any questions or comments?
Yes, I just want to know, how much longer is Empire going to be supplying? I think you had a 6-month contract, you said?
That's
And
correct.
when does that expire?
We started the 6-month contract on September the 15th for 6 months.
When does it expire?
I believe it's March.
March 15th.
Why would you go 6 months?
Because we were requested to do so. We were requested to do so. Not including by Public Services Commission. We were requested to do so, including by the Public Services Commission,
To do a 6-month contract?
to do a shorter contract. A temporary contract so that we could do a new RFP process.
I understand that, but why 6 months?
We wanted, if I could.
I think you're
Commissioner.
suggesting there should have been a shorter period.
Yes.
Yes.
Because this is supposed to end on October 30th. By November, you would have had, November, December, you would have had a new contract in place. Why go till March?
All right, if I may, we wanted to permit sufficient time so that if anything happened, that the procurement process would be completed. We were also told by the several vendors that we reached out to see if they would do an interim contract, and no one would do less than 6 months. Because apparently you have to charter everybody charters the vessels, and in order to get them here, if you're not using the ones that are in the particular, it takes time to transport the vessels here, and the logistics of it would not have made it possible.
Isn't Empire out of Puerto Rico?
The vessels are not.
Where they go? Are they
I-
foreign vessels?
I'm not sure which ones they are using, but you can actually go online and see where each of these vessels are at any particular point, and then they have to make the journey to come here.
No follow-up questions.
Questions?
Commissioner Hughes, you wanted to say something else?
Yeah, first of all, to the Commissioner McGrath's point, to get into St. Croix requires a 10,000 cubic meter capacity ship that's not widely available. The entity that was entered into Empire has chartered a vessel called the Victoire that was over in the Indian Ocean. It's en route currently. May have actually arrived. It was scheduled, I think, to arrive the 3rd or 4th of October to receive Coast Guard inspection. There weren't very many people that had that ship available. One of them made a proposal nobody wants to move a ship. Commissioner McGrath, for surprised they moved it for 6 months, and I'm not certain there isn't an implied contract that to some promises that have been made to Empire, because 6 months is a very, very short amount of time to lease any vessel. Particularly if you got to move it all the way from the Indian Ocean here and presumably back. With respect to the proposal that was received by the authority, the specifics of it are as follows. The entity, which is an entity which had already been doing business with the authority for the last 3.5 years, the incumbent provider of all LPG to direct delivery to St. Thomas, offered to continue the contract for a period of 2 years for the benchmark price for the acquisition of LPG. So it's basically benchmark plus 34 cents. Very market competitive contract, but that's only into St. Thomas. And that requires a specific size ship, about 64,000 barrels is the largest ship that can get into St. Thomas. So that ship cannot get into St. Croix. So a second ship is required. That entity offered to provide the transit from St. Thomas to St. Croix of necessary LPG using a second ship, a dedicated ship, at its cost, which is essentially the cost of the lease of the vessel plus port fees and bunkerage, which is the cost of fuel to get back and forth between the two islands. It's got to go about 4 or 5 times a month to meet St. Croix's needs. and that entity had had experience and visibility to the volumes necessary to service St. Croix out of St. Thomas, which is currently how it's being done and almost certainly how it's going to have to be done in the future. So that entity did not provide a proposal which would have created, under current volume conditions, a price even equal to that which we're now currently paying Empire. The blended price of that contract proposal, which WAPA did not meaningfully respond to, was benchmark plus 43 and a half. I think we're up in the mid 50s now with Empire on an interim basis, and I wouldn't expect we're going to see bids below that from other entities. Those are the facts of the proposal. I have them in writing. They were provided to our general counsel. They were provided to WAPA's board members. They were provided to members of the legislature. And the proposal was made directly to WAPA. It was not made through any of these other entities. And it was not meaningfully engaged. WAPA instead went back to Empire and signed a contract in its direct negotiation for something on the order of benchmark plus 52. Which is, by the way, a contract Empire, it's still inbound for St. Croix. They subcontracted the proportion or the portion of the direct to St. Thomas leg to a company called Geogas, which is an established and credible supplier in the Caribbean. That's what's happening right now and will happen for the next 6 months. And then this new RFP process will take effect. Thank you, Chair. Appreciate the extra time.
Well, I think maybe unfortunately for the company, one of the things they failed to do is maybe submit the proposal to the commission or to the commissioners, or maybe our general counsel should have sent it to us. At least I don't recall seeing it.
Well, I do recall having made it offered to make it available to each one of you. I didn't receive any response. But Boyd Sprain had the proposal when it was made. I had it. I was copied to it when it was made, as were members of the WAPA board. And I provided it as well to one of our ex officio legislatures so that he may be aware also of the attempts to provide a market-based supply of fuel to the territory with an at cost, which is an extraordinarily generous offer, an at cost provision between the two islands. Not a markup, no profit, just whatever it costs them, which is whatever it's going to cost anybody else, was the nature of that proposal. So anybody else, people doing it for less than that would be losing money. No.
If it was something they wanted us to be aware of or consider, they certainly did not go through the proper channels of getting it to our attention.
Well, we are, to Ms. Sinclair's point, we probably shouldn't be that involved in the process, but we were to it. And I did offer you specifically and each of the commissioners the opportunity to review that proposal as well. I received no response. So.
If I could briefly just clarify for a moment, there seemed to be a suggestion that the authority is in agreement somehow with Empire outside of the procurement process. So I want to just make that absolutely clear that that is 100% not true. I'm really trying to even understand why such an allegation like that would ever be made and made publicly when there is absolutely no basis to it. Also, in terms of the commission's involvement in selection of a vendor, that is exactly why the process goes through the contract management administration. It does not go through the legislature. It does not go through the PSC. It does not go through WAPA management. In order that every vendor have a full and fair opportunity to submit their proposal and have it considered without a finger on the scale by whomever, but particularly by those who are empowered to impact selection. That is exactly why this should never happen.
Well, you'll note that almost all of my comments have been to attempt to defray any attempt at what's called a directed contract. And unfortunately, the utility has had a history of directed contracts to vendors. So that's what we're trying to avoid, Attorney Sinclair. I know you're trying to avoid it as well. But that's the role of the PSC is to make sure that WAPA follows a process, the same process that you just described. And that's all we're attempting to do here. We're not interested in being part of the negotiation or bringing a particular vendor to the table. We're interested that you guys follow a correct process that does not result in directed contracts. That means exclusionary provisions. That means the selective transmission of information to one party and not the other. These are all aspects of a proper procurement process, and that's why we have it as a docket item, and that's what our concern is individually. Not interested in being part of your procurement. Very much interested in the process.
Thank you. We're gonna move on. The next item, WAPA New Generation RFP.
Good morning, Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer. Similar to the conversations that we just had in terms of procurements being outside of WAPA management, I would like to just reiterate to you, I believe that Director Williams Ockerman was invited to attend this meeting. The new generation RFP is being handled by the Office of Disaster and Recovery. And to that extent, I do not notice that she is present. I don't know if her or one of her team are online to be able to provide that update on the RFP. Very similarly to the procedures that WAPA has.
What is the update that WAPA has? What's your knowledge of that? Tell us from your vantage point.
I am not personally directly involved in that RFP. I do apologize, Commissioner Williams. I cannot personally give you that response.
Nobody from the three of you can respond to that?
I don't believe we have a schedule for that one.
We do not have.
What do you mean? Okay, you mean I have a schedule, but tell us generally where we are, what's happening.
If I may defer, we can provide you that information by email. I do apologize for not having a specific.
I mean, you could supplement your testimony by sending me an email, but we just need to know what's going on. Attorney Sinclair?
Yeah, so for that one, we're part of the Rebuild USVI MOU with various agencies. Because of that, this particular procurement is being led by ODR. I guess we had thought that someone from the office, I know they were invited, would be online. I do know that they have selected the overall general manager, a firm, and that firm in and of itself has issued a procurement which has various parts within the one procurement. So it has one part is the temporary generation, one is for proposal for the overall generation. But in terms of the timeline and the bidders and things of that nature that we usually have that information ourselves, I am not aware of that.
So if you could get all that information and then supplement your testimony by providing it to us by email within the next 10 days, that will be appreciated.
Certainly, sir. We will absolutely do that.
Mr. Hughes, any questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Sam?
No. Commissioner Williams has his hand raised.
Commissioner Williams?
I want to apologize for not being in the meeting most of the time, but I just traveled over to St. Thomas, but I've been listening to the bits and pieces of the conversation, and I was still wondering, and I got the tail end, so forgive me for the redundancy, but I'm still interested in, and I think Commissioner Hughes, I don't know if you answered pretty much what my concern was, but to WAPA, did you discuss a timeline, a potential timeline for getting a contract in place? I might have missed it. For the propane.
We can have the staff email you what they provided to us this morning, Commissioner Williams. Send it to you, Evelyn. Copy of that.
My question, Mr. Chair, that's fine, but I still want to hear verbally if there was a discussion that suggested any type of timeline.
Well, I did have the time, Nicola Bain, Contract Administration Manager. The timeline I provided today was a timeline for the RFP completion, which in turn would be all proposals must be submitted by October 24th. Thereafter, if you just want to understand the process, we go to the evaluation stage. So we have an evaluation committee and we usually have a turnaround time for recommendation within 30 days. Thereafter, it would go to the board for approval, because again, the evaluation committee is just a recommendation. And then thereafter, we go through the negotiation of the contract stage. So, you're talking about, a few months.
Ms. Bain, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're
Hold
under
on.
obligation. Well, no, it's to answer Raymond's question.
Hold on, I didn't know. Let's try and do this in an orderly fashion. Commissioner Williams, have you concluded?
Yes, that's what along the line of what I was inquiring.
Thank
you, Commissioner Hughes.
I think we're obligated until March 15th to buy propane from Empire. I can't imagine they moved a ship over here without at least the 6-month commitment under the contract. Is that not correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so your process could take the 5 months we have remaining. It wouldn't matter if it took 3. We're still going to buy propane from Empire until March 15th.
We do have a contract in place with them, yes.
I think that more succinctly answers Commissioner Williams' question, that we have a transition on March 15th.
Commissioner McGrath, Assistant?
We don't have a clause in the contract that states if we should decide on a new supplier that, your services, it has to be for 6 months.
An early termination clause?
Right.
No. And I think as I was.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
What you're
with
saying,
the
that
logistics.
nobody's gonna do it for less than
Right.
6 months. Okay, thanks.
All right. There's nothing further. Thank you for your testimony, presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that concludes.
And I just wanted to mention Lorraine Kelly, CFO, before we leave. I know that there was Lorraine Kelly, Chief Financial Officer, and before the WAPA team leaves, I believe there were some orders that were from the past that we wanted to make sure that we had received. If I could just follow up and make sure that those would be forthcoming to us so that we can receive them formally from the PSC.
Which orders are you
There were
referring to?
orders from the December meeting regarding the LIAC. There was an order from the March meetings regarding the LIAC. And then most recently, an order in terms of the LIAC rate not changing in the last month. We want to make sure that we have that formally, and we do not have those orders from you.
Actually,
Hold on, I'm not sure why you don't have them, but you should have them by the close of business today.
Thank you, sir.
It was sent on the
Yeah, we
September
have
25th.
the LIAC.
Okay, thank you.
You have the LIAC ones? Which one are you missing?
We have, the last meeting, I believe that there were other orders issued on other areas, not just the LIAC. And so those we don't have. What we have is specifically, we have.
But tell me what is it that you're missing? I don't know.
There were some customer service orders. There were,
I think there were 4 customer service orders.
Yeah, but there are other issues. So what we do have that is current, completely up to date, or we have all the assessments, we get those right away.
Of course.
Right away. And now.
I would like a check right away.
And now we have finally received, I think, all the outstanding.
All of the, right.
Yes, right. So I think we're going in subject matters
So you-
right now.
Customer service orders, you still.
Outstanding.
All right. You'll get those.
Thank you, sir.
Attorney Spear, you wanted to say something?
nope, you addressed it.
All right.
We do need to, set our calendar for our next meeting.
This doesn't involve them.
No.
All right, you're
Thank you.
excused.
Thank you.
So our regularly scheduled meeting is, set for October 14th. So what? Our regularly scheduled meeting is set for October 14th. However, we had.
October what?
14th.
Okay.
However, we had the meeting today. That doesn't give staff enough turnaround time to be prepared for the October 14th meeting. That means the agenda would need to be out on Friday. If we continue with the October 14th meeting.
I know what my response to that is.
Thank you.
I'm not sure why that would make a difference. Staff knew when the next meeting is.
Right, but we need to get the agenda items together.
That's something y'all could be working on. I'm not gonna go into it. So what you're saying is that you don't want to meet on October 14th?
No, I'm not saying that we don't want to meet on October 14th. I don't know if we have sufficient information to be able to meet on October 14th. We don't know if we have enough talking points to meet on October 14th. So the question is, does the commission want to meet on October 14th? That's October. Then in November, the date that we normally schedule our regularly meetings will be November 11th, which is Veterans Day. That's a holiday. In addition to it being a holiday, NARUC is also conducting the Seattle conference at that time. And so that date also needs to be considered. So I'm bringing these matters to your attention so that we can make a decision now that we have all parties involved, so we don't have to rely on the email system.
Well, what I suggest is that you hold commissioners for a meeting between October 14th and probably November 5th. That would probably be a combination of what would have happened in October and November. Says we're probably not gonna have a November meeting during that time frame. Because after that, then you go into Thanksgiving.
Correct.
Why don't we not have a November meeting, but maybe move the October meeting maybe a week ahead of what it's scheduled, or?
Or later.
That's
what I suggested.
Yeah.
We find a day
Oh, okay.
between October 14th and November 5th to have the next meeting.
Do you propose a date for that?
Can I propose the 4th of November?
November 4th. I mean, if everyone's available, we can.
I don't know what my calendar is, so I can't say yes or no, but if that's a consensus, I'll check when I get back to my office.
We'll pencil November 4th. So just to clarify, we're going to forfeit the 14th, or are we continuing with October 14th?
We're gonna forfeit October 14th and November 11th, and we're gonna have one meeting on November 4th or whatever date
We're gonna pencil the date for November 4th. And we're gonna continue with the 9 AM timeframe.
Yes.
Okay.
November 4th.
November 4th is one thing.
That's a Tuesday. Tuesday, November 4th. Okay.
Ooh,
What we will
what's
do
that
is
do
have
for
this-
Raymond?
Where's Frank? Raymond's
Huh?
still there.
What's that do for Raymond? I mean, that's kind of an election day, right?
We don't have any
It
elections.
is.
Yeah.
Do we?
No.
We did.
No election.
Next year.
Okay.
Will you have an election then?
No.
Who said no?
Huh?
Who said no?
You have an election this year?
Yeah. No, that's a joke. No, but
Well, you were running.
I'm trying to run off of all these boards and commissions. That's what I'm trying to run for. But yeah, the 4th, I'll be available.
Okay, so we'll have Ms. Reynolds formally send an email out just to have everyone check their calendars, and then we can confirm based off of that.
Okay, sounds good.
Tuesday, November 4th.
And that was
That's
it.
it.
We just wanted to lock down the calendars. Oh, and we do have the letters prepared. We need to get that filing in today for the FCC recertification. If you could be so kind as
Is that
to
what you
sign
just
those
gave
so
me?
that we can work on those. Yes, yes. So prior to you leaving today, I would appreciate those back so that I can submit the filing.
You read all of these?
Yes, Ms. Reynolds prepared those in advance because she was not going to be here today. So those were ready from last week.
Yeah. We're off the record, right?
No, we're still here.
Okay, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Reference.